Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Hari. I must say this is a lovely environment to walk into. I'm sorry I came late. It was another program in Livermore, and it went longer than we expected. But in another way, I'm happy to come in and feel this, what it feels like to walk in. Sometimes we can take for granted what we have until we look at it from a different perspective. Sometimes in one's own home, you can have, for instance, a painting on the wall, and until a friend comes over and says, hey, that's really beautiful. And it's like, oh, that old thing? I forgot. And then you start appreciating it through someone else's eyes. And one of the reasons that the process of Krishna consciousness, which involves inviting other people to join the group, the family, depending on how intimate people feel, is that we see through their eyes. Vicariously, we experience Krishna consciousness again and again as we see and remember then what it's like to come in contact with a higher vibration. So, my name is Vaisesika Dasa. I'm late. I'm sorry. I apologize. And this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In case you came in the wrong room, don't worry. We're vegetarian. Everyone, please be comfortable. This is a celebration, really, of life, of consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, who's our founder Acharya, this is a very specific title, he single-handedly started this particular movement. He was alone. He had no resources at the time, but because he had what he called firm faith in the order of his spiritual teacher, he took that as permission to risk everything and try to give Krishna consciousness to as many people as possible, especially in the West. Sometimes in groups, there's a way that people become insular and feel that we should keep this for ourselves, we should keep out the outsiders, and then there's a restriction of the teachings. This can happen from time to time. People sometimes think that it's exclusively available only to a certain class or type of person. In fact, there's a philosopher, sociologist named Michel, who gave what he called his iron laws of oligarchy. And that is that when people in any social group are out of goodwill, they volunteer to do something, and then they start getting some notoriety for it and maybe a little power in their position. They then transfer the energy that they had in the beginning for doing good for others into protecting their position. And they want to consolidate the power and not lose their position, and then that becomes the exclusive purpose. It happens individually, and it can happen to groups and societies as well. And we see throughout history, there are many examples of groups that have done that, and especially when it comes to teaching about the Supreme, that oftentimes there's a power that comes to the position if you're a representative, and then you might say that, well, it only comes through in a certain way, and then there's no other way you can do it. Does that sound familiar? I see a few smiles, so maybe, yeah. And so a unique aspect of the Krishna consciousness movement, ISKCON, is that it follows the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who broke many of the societal molds at the time and gave Krishna consciousness freely to people that at the time were not welcome in other groups. And even up to very recently, there were great debates about this. Some had said that, which I should define what recently means, maybe 100 years ago, there were some very pointed debates going on about who's eligible to take up this practice that we're all sitting here doing. And even when Srila Prabhupada came to America, some of his colleagues, even in India, thought, okay, now you're going a little too far. Mixing with all these Western people and giving them this practice and so forth, it's only for some people. But the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 500 years ago, he was an avatar. Avatar means one who descends from a higher realm to help those in a lower realm. And he's also known as an incarnation of Krishna himself, but he comes in a golden form. Krishna's blackish, Lord Chaitanya is golden. And he has a mood of magnanimity. He gives freely what most people think is exclusivistic, and it's only for some people. And there's poetry in the biography and philosophical treatise about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in which the author says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates plundered the storehouse where was kept the love of Godhead and the process for attaining love of Godhead. They broke it open. And in Bengali, the word for plunder is lute. What's a word in English for when people start a riot somewhere and they start smashing windows? What's it called? Looting. It's the same word. Lute and looting. So there's this sense that enough's enough, we should give this to everybody. So it is said poetically that they broke open the storehouse of love of God that was locked and sealed. Only some people could get it. And they said it's for everybody. And interestingly, the more they gave it out, the more the contents increased. Spiritual mathematics. The more you give, the more you grow. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba vipra kiba nyasi shudra kena noi. She Krishna tattva veta, she guru hoy. And that is that it doesn't matter what position in life you are, it doesn't matter, your material body is not the issue. It's whether or not you're sincere and whether or not you'd like to be educated in Krishna consciousness, in the science of Krishna consciousness. And if you do that, then such a person can become a guru. Guru means, literally, means heavy. And it also means that if you have something, you can teach it to other people. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much encouraged that. He said everybody should become a guru because it's much needed in the world. People are wayward when it comes to spiritual practice. And this age is known to be retrograde from other ages in which nowadays people are slow to take up spiritual practice. Partly they're just distracted. They don't have time. Artificial means of living, we think we're very advanced, but in order to have the amenities that are supposedly giving us comfort, and I don't eschew all of those, so I'm not arguing against them necessarily, but they can become a trap where we lose our bearing and we think that's the goal of life, just to be comfortable materially. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said everybody should learn the science of Krishna consciousness. For instance, study the Bhagavad-gita. It's only 700 verses. How hard could that be, right? Right? I mean, all of you know C++, right? And you've memorized all kinds of other codes and things like that. So you could certainly memorize or learn, take to heart anyway, 700 verses of the Bhagavad-gita. And also there's the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is known in spiritual circles and academic circles, by the way, as the greatest book ever written. The language itself reveals a culture which is rich in knowledge and aesthetics and everything that's good for the human spirit. But it's not well known. Not as well known in the West anyway as Harry Potter or other types of books which, even though philosophical, they only scratch the surface when it comes to talking about how to use the human form of life for the highest good. Now, in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna comes right to the point. Isn't that nice? A lot of times, somebody offers you valuable information. Tell me if you've ever experienced this, and you go to look at it on their website, and you keep reading and reading, and you're about to get it, but you don't quite get it until you sign up for the next thing. Doesn't that bug you? That doesn't happen in Bhagavad-gita. Krishna just comes right out and said, you're not your body. He tells Arjuna immediately, and finally we got somebody who just gives it to you right straight and doesn't prevaricate and give all kinds of enticements leading you to buy something else. It's given to improve us and so that we can orient ourselves properly in life. And this is a great treasure to know from the get-go that we're something more than the material body. The material body has a beginning and an end, and we don't. That accounts for a lot of the anxieties that we feel in life, because we have a sense that we should live forever. Even when you get in your 60s, it's like, hey, I'm young. It's like people might look at you in a different way, but everyone always feels young because we always are. Internally, as souls, we're really young. The body's just a temporary covering for the soul. This is what Krishna says in the beginning of Bhagavad-gita. And another aspect of Bhagavad-gita that's reassuring and helpful is that it's practical. Sometimes philosophies are fascinating and they're interesting, but they don't give access. So what does Krishna talk about in the Bhagavad-gita after he reveals to Arjuna, his student, that you're not your body? Arjuna was in crisis. That's something else about the Bhagavad-gita we can probably relate to. Has anybody here ever had a crisis, either small or large, in their life? I don't know if there's such thing as a small crisis. Sounds like a name of a metal band or something. So he starts in crisis, and the beginning of the Bhagavad-gita is relatable to us because oftentimes, or almost constantly, we have impossible decisions to make. Have you ever had that? Right? I hate to say, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Either way, you make the decision. It's like, it's very hard. Arjuna was in a situation like that, and we can relate to that. In fact, some of the translations of the Bhagavad-gita call the first chapter the Yoga of Despair. And it's at times when we're in despair where we feel, I have nowhere else to turn, I don't have any answers, I don't want to suffer anymore, that we reach higher. It's something we find in the Bhagavatam also, that Devahuti, and when you get your set of Bhagavatams after this class, if you don't have one, you can read about Devahuti in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. She was the wife of Kardama Muni. She had a son who was an incarnation of God. He happened to appear in their family and taught her all the lessons of the various kinds of yoga. And her son Kapila, you've probably heard of, so one of the very white incarnations of the Lord, also talked about bhakti yoga and devotional service. I especially like Devahuti's approach to her son, who is the supreme. When she inquired from him, he said, I can't take it anymore. I like that. She said, I'm sick and tired of this. I've been dominated by my senses for so long, and I always feel this sense of despair in my life because material life never works out for me. She also said it's very hard to understand that I'm not my body. Krishna says in the beginning of the Bhagavad-gita, but philosophically I may hear that, but to realize it, experience it directly for myself, that may be harder. And she says that. She said to her son, I know I'm not my body philosophically, but it really seems like I am. So she told him that I'm ready to hear. I'm ready for higher instruction in life to tell me how to overcome the complexities of life. And she also admitted that although I've heard the philosophy, I don't know exactly how to attain it. So Arjuna was like that too. It's a good place to be, don't you think? Okay. 3 or 4 of you. Somebody's supposed to warm up the crowd here for me. So Arjuna then, he feels free to put his inquiries to Krishna. And this is an amazing aspect of spiritual literature, and especially the Bhagavad-gita, because it's so accessible to everyone and it's so trusted in human society. It's been protected over millennia because so many of the great teachers, both in the spiritual realm, that is, those who are fully dedicated to the practicing, and also those in academia, have commentated on the Bhagavad-gita, and therefore it's been preserved very well, even though some parts of the Mahabharata have been interpolated to suit various cultures. And the Bhagavad-gita, however, is pristine. And in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna gives very straightforward information. First of all, he talks about the power of seeing the difference between the body and the soul. And then he talks about knowledge and what is knowledge. And then he talks about how to deal with the world in an enlightened way. And there's this conundrum that people have. Should I give up the world or should I embrace the world? It seems as if whenever I try to embrace the world, whenever I do embrace the world, it doesn't always embrace me back. Or it becomes disappointed. Have anybody, speak English, has anybody experienced such a rebuff from the material world? Have you ever been rebuffed? Let's just be really honest here. Ouch, ouch, ouch. So, yeah, the material world doesn't exactly reciprocate with us the way that we hope that it will. We have some hope that I can find my true love and comfort and full bank account, whatever else there is, I don't know. So these things don't always work out. And so that there are philosophies in the world that say, like, don't even try, just give it all up. And come to zero. Just give up the idea of interacting with people. In fact, give up the idea of having a self. Believe it or not, there are philosophies built around this idea that because the material world is troublesome and all suffering comes from attachment and all suffering comes from material desire, and it's perceived by some that all desire is material, that desire equals material. Because of people's experience. We only have the experience of the material world. Therefore, I think when I desire, there's a pattern that plays out. There are consequences where it's almost not worth it to try. And therefore, people conclude that maybe spiritual means stop everything. And even conceive of being nothing, because that would be peace. Does that resonate? I mean, not that you agree with it, I'm just saying that. Have you heard that? So when we get to the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says something very different. And it surprises people sometimes because they're expecting. For instance, I met a young man in Los Angeles who had received the Bhagavad-gita in a parking lot, of all places. How would you possibly get a Bhagavad-gita in a parking lot? Very odd. And he took it home and he looked at it a little bit and he thought, nah, not for me, put it on the shelf. And He was living with his father at the time. Then he moved out and, I don't know, pick any Bob Dylan song, get sick, get well, hang around an inkwell. Life went on, and he came back feeling discouraged in life. And his father said, "Hey, remember you got that book, why don't you check it out?" He said, "Because I've been reading it while you're gone, and it's pretty commonsensical." So he said, "Oh, all right, because what else am I going to do?" And he picked up the Bhagavad-gita and started reading it. And he saw Arjuna in crisis in the first chapter, and he thought, yeah, Krishna's going to tell him, be a pacifist and just give up. And he was shocked when Krishna said, "Go out there and fight." This is the first spiritual book I've ever seen, he said, that somebody said, "Go fight a war." Where does that come from? That's interesting. And he really then took to it and looked into it more deeply. There is a knee-jerk reaction to just say, well, let's give up everything and stop thinking, stop desiring. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, you can't. Nahi kashit shanamapi jatu tishchatya karma krit karyate havasha karma sarva prakriti jayargunai. He said, Arjuna, you can't stop. The soul is active. That's its nature. And we can observe that for ourselves, even when we sleep at night. I was trying to solve some puzzle last night. I had a blackboard in front of me, and one of my friends was standing over my shoulder, and he's like, "You haven't gotten that yet?" And I was like, "Come on, give me a chance." And I woke up, and we're very active, even when we're sleeping. There's no time at which the soul is not active, although sometimes it's dormant, although that may sound like I'm cutting it pretty close. But the fact is, when we go into a state called susupti, where there's no dreams, there are 3 states. One is with dreams and without dreams, and then there's our conscious life, and we know we're awake because we're aware that we're aware. It's self-evident that we're alive. But when we're sleeping, sometimes we dream, and we're in a wonder world somewhere. And then there's sleep without dreams. But our great teachers and acharyas talk about the various phases of consciousness, and sleep without dreams doesn't mean that you're unconscious. It means that you're conscious of nothing. You can take that one home with you. Fact is, however, we're always active, we're always living, we're eternally conscious beings. We're only experiencing through different mediums here in the material world, Krishna tells Arjuna. He says, Dehinosmin yata dehe. You experience the world through a child's eyes. You can ask any child, how do you see the world? I want to play, I want toys. Do you guys want toys? No, you don't. You don't want those guys. One Christmas, I remember, my family in Lafayette, you could get whatever you want around that time of year. And I fixated, because my father took me downtown San Francisco. He used to go there right before Christmas, and this and that. And so I saw a toy that I wanted, and I couldn't stop dreaming about it. It was a little arcade where there was ducks or something that went across, and there was a little gun, and it would shoot these little pellets, and and I was like tossing and turning at night. Am I going to get that? I got to have that. It was just an obsession. And I can honestly say, I'll be very honest with you here today, I don't want it anymore. It's definitely, I don't want it. And in fact, I'm trying to get rid of stuff now. Everything must go. So we see the world through various lenses according to the body. Dehino asmin yata dehe komaranyo varanjara. Krishna says, yeah, you're the same soul. Your perspective is changing because of the lens you're seeing through. The mind is the lens. It changes at different times. You see one thing. Oh, I love that. I love that person. And the next 2 years later, where's that person? Oh, yeah, I hate him. What happened? Well, my mind changed. And this is how we're perceiving the world all the time. The good, the bad, up and down. This is called mano dharma. the religion of the mind. What's your religion? Religion of the mind. I just do whatever my mind tells me. That's the material world. So Krishna says, yeah, don't do that. And then he tells how to have enlightened engagement with the world. And he speaks about how it's better to work in the world, but to use everything for an enlightened cause. And the enlightened cause really is to serve God. This is what devotional service is. That's why what Lord Chaitanya taught and what Srila Prabhupada brought to America works so well. We fit perfectly into this slot. Okay, let me say which slot. There's the idea or a slot that I'm going to give up the world. You can do it for some time. Have you ever been on a diet? Come on. So you've been on a diet and then all of a sudden you're not on a diet, right? Are you on one now or not? It's all right. So, yeah, that happens. It happens all the time. I'm renounced and then I'm not renounced. It's called the Bhoga Tyaga. This is a thing. It's a syndrome that we're caught in. Bhoga means I want to enjoy. And once I try to enjoy, then at a certain point I've had enough, I don't like it anymore. Has that ever happened to you? It's like you love a certain thing and then you hate it. So then you go to Tyaga, which means I'm going to give it all up. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And these are the two slots that everyone's in the material world, and we're alternating between one and the other. So he came along and said, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, there's another place where you can be happy. In fact, it's the only place. And that is to see the world as paraphernalia to use in service to the Supreme. Now here's why it solves all problems. Because we're part of the Supreme just as much as my hand is part of my body. Now, if my hand tries to enjoy independent of serving the body, then it's a diseased hand. Or if it just refuses to serve the body, then it's a diseased hand also. For instance, if I say, come here, hand, and the hand just stays there and it doesn't come, somebody's like, what's wrong with your hand? I don't know, I better go have it checked out, right? Because you wake up one morning and say, come here, hand, and your hand's like, no, I'm not coming. It's like, okay, go to the doctor. You've got a problem, right? And if the hand tries to act independently, for instance, if you were going to have something to eat tonight, were you all thinking about that? Yeah. So then your hand said, I'm not feeding the mouth and the stomach. I'm going to take it myself. See, once there was a revolt by all the senses, and they decided they were going on strike against the stomach. That guy sits there, he just takes everything for himself. What does he really do? We work so hard. We get all the food, we grow it, we cut it, we cook it, all the preparation work we do, and then we just hand it over to the stomach. No more. We quit. We're on strike. A few days later, they got back together again and they said, this isn't working. We feel worse than ever. We're losing our energy. We're lethargic. And they said, let's go back to it. And as soon as they started feeding the mouth and the stomach again, working together for that cause, they immediately felt vivacious and happy again. So we're part of Krishna, as much as the hand is part of the body. And when we serve Krishna in devotional service, that is, whatever we have, we use it in Krishna's service, then we feel naturally enlivened and happy. And I'll give you one other example. It's of a tiny screw. A screw, if you find it on the ground on Rengstorff, and you pick it up and brush it off, and you ask your friend, how much can I get for this on eBay? You work for eBay, maybe tell us. How much do you get for a little screw? I don't know, maybe somebody's if you advertise it right, but generally nothing. It becomes a worthless little item. Why worthless? It's a great asset to have a screw when you need one, right? And when do you need one? When you need to connect something and hold it together. And when the screw is in its machine that it's meant for, it's invaluable. But when it falls out and it's estranged from its original purpose, then it's a forlorn little entity. In fact, we could feel sorry if you ever find a little screw on the ground, you please pick it up and give it a little solace. Put it in the palm of your hand, brush it off, and say, my poor little entity, I know how you feel. I felt like that too, and here's what I found. If you take to devotional service, you'll be happy. He just wants, little screw now just wants to go back to its machine, and so do we. But luckily, we're not parts of a machine. We're conscious living entities, and we're part of Krishna, who's known as love personified. He's all attractive because he's all loving. And when we engage in even a little bit of devotional service, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, if you just do one tiny little thing for me, I'll never forget it. What a relationship that is. Most relationships in the world, they forget everything you have done. And it's like, what do you mean I'm fired? It's like, yeah, we don't know you anymore, and you got 5 minutes to get out of here, by the way. Don't come back. Good luck getting another job, right? Not Krishna. Krishna says, you just offer me a leaf or a little water, something, you can get it anywhere. Just do it now. Offer it. He said, I'll accept that. And he says, if you do a small offering to me, I'll never forget it. It's always on your record. So devotional service is a practice that anyone can take up, and doesn't mean you have to give up your job. In fact, you should keep it. You don't have to give up your style. Keep your style. Just engage in a way that you're offering whatever you do to Krishna. And then you'll feel happy. And this is what Krishna says in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, that this lifestyle is way better than the style of renouncing the world. And definitely, he says throughout the Bhagavad-gita, don't be stupid and try to enjoy the material world as a gross materialist. He says that's the path of folly. That's the path of fools. And you'll only suffer more and more because of it. So we're really lucky. We have the Bhagavad-gita, which is a commonsensical literature. Anyone who reads it from any walk of life who's a little bit open-minded will hear a voice of reason, and also find a practical way to live life so that you'll feel satisfied and happy. So it's worth reading the Bhagavad-gita with an open mind and thinking, I'm hearing from the Supreme. Even if you don't believe in the Supreme, you should suspend your disbelief for a few weeks. Just mark your calendar and say, up until this point, I'll just suspend my disbelief and I'll accept that Krishna is God and see what he has to say. And when you do that, you'll be filled up immediately. And if you're already practicing devotional service, it's a good idea to go back to the basics. Bhagavad-gita is the Vedic wisdom consolidated in 700 verses. And if you just get used to reading it every day, then your intelligence will be so fortified that you'll be able to greet each dawn with joy in your heart, that you get another chance to use everything for Krishna's service. That's my preamble. Now I'm going to start. I'm just kidding. So let's see if you have any reflections or questions. Take a couple. What a great kirtan you were leading when you came in. I was wondering, who is that? I did a double take. Really nice. I like what you did with the tune, too. You jazzed it up. Was that Hamsadwani you were singing? Yeah, it was like a Hamsadwani with a little jazz riff in it, right? It was very nice. Okay, what are you all thinking? Let's share. Yes, Kennedy.
Hare Krishna. On the point you'd made about Arjuna being told to fight, and how a lot of times we hear spiritual literature tell us to give up everything for the sake of peace. It reminds me that the Gita teaches us to live fully, and that while there is some sacrifice, it's not ever in the way that, at least the way I've grown up in Western culture, I've ever learned what sacrifice was. And truly, it's just when you live with service in mind, you live the fullest possible life.
Nice observation. It's something Krishna mentions in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. Jagnartak kamano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana. He says that, amazingly, and this, it's something you don't read about in Washington Post. Human life and the world was meant for yajna. Yajna means for taking a little trouble on yourself to do something for the Supreme. And an example that's given in the Srimad Bhagavatam of how this works is very similar to the one of feeding the stomach, and that is watering the root of a tree. When you water the root of the tree, then all the branches and leaves become satisfied. And one of the points, and that Kennedy's bringing out, is you don't hear about it much, but it's the wealth of those who want to advance in spiritual life is making some sacrifice. Sacrifice really comes from the root word sacred, of doing something for a higher cause. And the highest cause, there are many higher causes. There are many good causes in the world, yes? But there's only one great cause. And that is to dedicate your energy and give your attention and love to the source of all energies and of all beings. So the name for that personality in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings is Krishna. It means the one who's the origin of everything, and also who's all loving and all attractive. Nice point. Let's have a couple more. Rasa Sindhu. Nice chutter. Okay, microphone's coming in 7 seconds or less, or your money back from today's talk. Or we'll give you free prasadam afterwards.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a wonderful class. I was appreciating the point that that this wisdom, this love of Godhead, is such a hidden thing, and it's only used to be found in the groves of Vrindavan, and only few people had access to it. And the fact that, how you described that, there is a lute, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu broke it open, and not just broke it open, but is distributing in the streets, and it's giving to everyone. It's almost unfathomable that this time period we are in is where this is being given. It's almost like a cognitive dissonance. Hard to believe that this is such a sublime science and such a hidden process, and yet it is freely available. And I keep forgetting that how special this is.
Well, it happens. I mean, to make it less cognitive dissonant, there's a way that we see even in this world, people who are indigent often get more public help. They're eligible for it because they don't have anything. For instance, in the medical system, if you have money, then you have to buy insurance, right? Say yes. And if you have money and you didn't buy insurance, the governmental insurance will come to you gratis as long as you spend all your money first. Because they don't give it to people that have a certain amount of money. Same thing with some other assets that are available to people. And Jiva Goswami, who's one of the great teachers who came after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and helped to codify his philosophy, because sometimes it's said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings were like Niagara Falls. And he needed somebody to, get one of those, what are those stainless steel things? Clean canteen. And collect it up and say, here, you can drink from this. So they codified things, and Srila Jiva Goswami said that there's a way in which our disqualification in this age is our qualification. Because they're so disqualified, it's like, well, anyway, you're never going to get this, so we'll just give it to you, little fella, you take it. So he gives it away in the age of Kali because people are so disqualified. Thanks. It's a nice point, and it's good to remember. Kanka.
I like the story about the person who got the Bhagavad-gita in the parking lot. That's so many people I know that's happened to, where they put it on a shelf, and then for years and years they didn't read it. And then when he was really in distress, his father said, hey, why don't you read this book? It might help you out. I love that story.
Daru Brahma, our good friend Daru Brahma, who's a disciple of Prabhupada, told me when I was writing my book, I was interviewing different people around the world, and I had noticed her enthusiasm for all of Prabhupada's books a long time ago. I noticed that. And so I said, so what's your experience? And she told about how, as a young person, she was walking through a mall and she met a monk in the mall. And he offered her a Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. She didn't know what it was, she didn't know who he was, but she liked the vibe. And she gave him what was a lot of money back then, which was $20. And she took the book home and kept it around, but she never read it. And then it called to her at a particular time. She said it was a rainy night, there was a fire in the fireplace, and she said, well, why don't I look at this? It's been sitting here for a long time, and she started reading it. And then she said it became her life companion. When she'd go to bed at night, she'd keep it by her head. And every day, she couldn't wait to come back from work to read it. And that was the driving force. And then she learned that there was a community based on it, and she came to check it out, and she met the person who had translated it and given the commentary, who was Prabhupada, and she has since lived a life of Krishna consciousness. So yeah, I think of it sometimes like a message in a bottle. I was always fascinated with those as a kid, wished I could find one. And I read recently that, not that recently, about 5 years ago, I read that the world record had been broken, and a bottle that had been floating for 102 years was found and verified that it was 102 years old and had a message in there. And it had floated all the way, and I can't remember if it floated from this continent to the United Kingdom or the other way. If any oceanographers in here, you can tell which way the currents go. But they found it and they opened it up. So oftentimes when the Bhagavad-gita goes out into the world, it's like that message in a bottle. It can be 100 years, or, someone might offer a Bhagavad-gita to somebody, and then they'll take it, and then the person maybe could pass away prematurely, and then take birth back in their family. And then it's like, here, take the Bhagavad-gita. What goes around comes around, right? One more, two more? Yes, 1, 2. Here's your mic.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Namaste. So, there are so many versions of Gita, just in English, right? And then there is this Krishna Balram temple, and there is this Krishna Radha temple, and there's so many varieties. So, are they all same?
Are we all the same? No.
No.
Are all the Bhagavad Gitas the same? No. No. Different.
So how do we decide which one is better than the other?
What do you like so far?
I like to go to all the places.
All the places nice. And then what we generally find is you make relationships with somebody who helps you, especially, or the environment is resonates with you, and you find your niche someplace where you feel home. That's usually what I find people look for relationships, people they can trust. Because spiritual teachings come from people. I mean, the books are there. And of course, I don't know, I can tell my own experience. I read other Bhagavad-gitas. I didn't know anything about Gaudiya Vaishnavism or the path I'm on now. But I had a strong desire to know what spiritual life was. A friend of mine named Martha Pollock gave me a book in 1972. It's inscribed. As she handed it to me one Christmas, said, "Here, this is for you." And I didn't even know what it was. And I read it again and again and again. I also read other books that referred to Bhagavad-gita or that had commentary on Bhagavad-gita. And there were parts that didn't hang together for me. One of the parts was that things lean towards impersonality. How should I say that? It means that the ultimate conception of God was impersonal. In some commentaries on the Bhagavad-gita, there's a sense in which the ultimate goal is to become God yourself, or to merge with God, or as I said earlier, to become nothing. And when I read those, I felt the kind of cognitive dissonance, because I thought so much of it is about offering service and prayers and devotion and so forth. And I say, who am I giving my devotion to? Myself, if I am God, ultimately, and I haven't realized it yet? So there were gaps and missing parts. And eventually, when I came to read the philosophy that came down through the parampara, that is, it came from a disciplic line of teachers, I felt the cognitive dissonance go away. And I felt this very direct explanation. For instance, the first time I read the essence of the Bhagavad-gita as it is, I got a magazine called Back to Godhead. And in the Back to Godhead magazine, all the articles resonated with me. I also liked the pictures of devotees doing things. I saw they had service. I thought, that's like something I want to do. And then I saw an advertisement for the Sri Upanishad. You know that book? Can somebody get her one after the class? It's on me. Or anybody else who wants one. For all my friends. So it had a little advertisement next to the book, the image of the book, and it said, the ancient Vedic literatures say that actually God is a person. And I was stunned for 5 minutes. Like, somebody said that? Because think about it. Most of the religions of the world, they're kind of like, well, who's God? It's like, well, son, maybe yes, no, or maybe, prophet, this, that. Like, any image? No. Don't bring that up. Or a little picture, and there's a throne and a light coming out of it, but like, can I see the face? Not possible. No photo. So there's all this kind of like, we're almost there. It's almost like going to somebody's house and they're going to feed you, right? You're going for dinner and then you hear them in the kitchen. It's like, I know they're in there, but nobody comes out. It's like, I'm really hungry. I was like, here, have a celery root. And then that's all you get. And I always felt like that until I saw that advertisement. I said, somebody's actually going to haul off and tell the truth here and be very direct about it. And it was such a different experience when I read the Bhagavad-gita as it is. I directly felt that the voice that I had heard inside me was now resonating with what I was reading. And every time I read aham in the Bhagavad-gita, I thought, that's God speaking. He's talking to me right now. I felt it. See, spiritual life, pratyakshavagavam dharmyam, Krishna says in the Gita, it's directly experienced. It's not just philosophical. And you can argue different philosophical systems, ways of doing things, but ultimately you have to feel home. You have to feel connected in your heart to God. And I got that experience by reading Bhagavad-gita as it is. And all the other literatures that are coming through the disciplic line where it has the flavor of personality for serving the personality of God. It was so important to me. Does that help? Okay. Last question here, and then we're going to have a little kirtan.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I liked what you said about who we are. Like, we are a little screw. We need to be back in our machine. And it's stupid to be materialistic. But although we might hear the truth, a part of us still hesitates to like drop everything and just trust it, because at least someone who's young like me, like I feel like there's a hope out there, like, oh, maybe I can find something that other people can't find. Like, it didn't work for them, but it could work for me. Or like, it's easy to hear it, but it's hard to follow it. So do you have any advice on how to deal with this hope?
Well, don't drop everything. Keep your day job and integrate this into your life. Because Krishna never told Arjuna to quit his day job. He said, fight. Arjuna, if you quit, that's what Arjuna wanted to do. It's like, all right, that's it, I quit. That's an ultimatum. Don't make ultimatums. Take workarounds. You've learned things when you work around things. So Krishna said, no, Arjuna, if you quit your job right now, it's like, I know you. You're going to come back to it sooner or later anyway. And everyone's going to say, ha, ha, ha. You know, you quit and you came back. So don't do that. He said, rather engage your nature, whatever it is. You're a warrior, fight for me, and engage in service. So don't drop everything. There's more enjoyment in Krishna consciousness than there is. I mean, there is no enjoyment in the material world. And I know that sounds extreme, but it's true. And you'll know that later in life, maybe, when you keep up Krishna consciousness throughout your whole life. I'm still learning that myself. But the fact is that this is the most sensual process you could possibly engage in. When I went to Dallas, Texas, there's a beautiful temple there. It was built by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was a perfectionist in every way. And I just remember I was there for Mangal Artik. They have an effect where in the temple room the lights come up like the sun's coming up in the morning, and it's timed for when the lights come up in the sky. And then, you know, after Mangal Artik, have you ever had this? People come up and they go like this on your hand, and it's a scent. You ever get that at your office at Google? They come up and they're like, whoa. I mean, they try. They're trying to do their best over there. But the real sensual enjoyment that actually satisfies comes from Krishna consciousness. And family life, you live with a spouse, and it's much better. You're happier because you're living a clean life. People get degraded. Even in the 60s, I'm going long on this. Somebody's got to stop me. Okay. That's my wife, by the way. That's her job. All right, so anyway, Krishna consciousness, take advantage of all you can get because it's a very happy place. And you'll go on with your life and things will gradually change anyway. The ideas that you have about where you get your pleasure from, they're going to dry up like little ponds in the summer, and then they're just gone. So family life, yeah, it's a great idea if you can hold on to it, but you can't. It's going to dry up. Everybody's going to go away. And then you go like, what happened? It's like exactly what Krishna said was going to happen in the Bhagavad-gita. And then you start going, okay, maybe I'll listen a little closer from now on. But anyway, you're going to be fine. Hare Krishna. That's how to stop my answers. So what we're going to do now is put away all the asanas, and we're going to have a Hare Krishna dance party just to prove my point. Really dance now. You can really get into the raga and the rhythm here because we're dancing for Krishna and feel happy. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
His Grace Vaisesika Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Preshtaya Bhutale Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatane. It will help. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Everyone. We just received a report that it's raining in India. Monsoon rain's coming, and this raga will sing the Hare Krishna mantra, and it's called Meg Rag, meant for the rainy season. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Jayam Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Rivajikacharya Stotra Satyasri Srimad Adhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Rivajikacharya Stotra Satyasri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Ki Jai Ananta Goti Vaishnavini Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, praying to the whole Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopina Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Ki Jai, Sri Mayapunam Tikam Ki Jai, Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Chandra Devi, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Samdita Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees. Go free, Hari Bo. Are you all in the mood to pray for a minute? We have some prayer requests. Dear Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, we're praying for Sham Jagannath Prabhu's friend, who's right now undergoing some treatment for cancer, and also Sri Ram Prabhu's father is sick and requesting prayers for his shelter at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, and the same for Sham Jagannath Prabhu's friend. May they attain pure devotion at your lotus feet. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Did she show up? Okay. Pick somebody who hasn't sung before. Surprise them.
Namaste Narashingaya. Shrilatam Kanakalaye Ito Narshinga Parato Narshinga Yato Yato Yami Tato Narshinga Dhaye Narshinga Re Dhaye Narshinga Narashinha Madim Sharanam Prapadye Tavakara Kamalavare Nakha Adhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Adhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Lakshmi Narashinga
Jayo Narahari, Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Narahari. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Bhakta Prahlad. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Darshan Dev ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Thank you all for joining us on a sunny Sunday here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley for the Sunday Feast program. So let's give a big round of applause to everyone who has joined us today. Haribol. We'll also like to thank all the online viewers who have joined us. So let's give them a big round of applause. So we'll like to welcome His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu back and also Her Grace Nirakula Mataji back from their trip from UK. So let's thank them for joining back at ISV here. So today's Krishna Katha was brought to us by His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu. So let's give him a big round of applause and thank him for a discourse. And also, before the class started, we had a beautiful Kirtan led by the kids team, Anushri, and the kids led by Anushri. So let's give them a big round of applause. Hare Krishna. Also, we would like to again thank His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu for leading an ecstatic Aarti. Haribo! And also Arjun for leading the Narsimha Aarti. Haribo! So, certainly not the last one to thank, but we would like to thank His Grace Charunimai Prabhu and Giridhar for running the broadcast, bringing us the broadcast from the communication center. Haribo! So I see many new faces today. So anyone coming here for the first time? Thank you. Okay, we have few friends. Okay, thank you. So thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any questions or if we can be of any help, please reach out to us. My name is Sri Gopal Das. Or you can reach out to Sachindra Prabhu. He will be right outside near the Prasadam table. We will be happy to assist you in any way we can. And if you like to get connected with the ISKCON events, we have a mailing list where we send out the email every week. So give your email address so that way you will be connected with all the upcoming festivals. So let's chant one Mahamantra for all the newcomers. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We have a few sponsors for today's Sunday feast. So I'd like to acknowledge them one by one. So please come here and we thank for your sponsorship and accept a small Mahaprasad. And so we have a gift here. The first is Priyesh Prabhu and Dolly Mataji, they are sponsoring on the occasion of their son's upcoming Madhav's birthday, and also in the honor of their parents and the in-laws visiting to the US. They are the devotees of, they visit Vrindavan, the Banke Bihari Lal temple. So they are devotees from the Vrajadham. So we like to thank them, and please come, Priyesh Prabhu here. They joined us like a year back, and now they are the part of ISV. They regularly come to the temple. So we like to express our gratitude and thank for joining our family. Hare Krishna. Are your parents and in-laws here? Yeah, everyone is here. Where are they? Okay. Right there? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. We are very fortunate to have your association here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And where is Madhav? Okay, so he's sleeping. Mataji, thank you again. Hare Krishna. And the second sponsor is His Grace Niral Prabhu and Kathy Mataji are sponsoring on the occasion of their daughter's Keshvi's birthday. So Keshvi, please come here. Thank you, Mataji. Niral Prabhu, please come. Thank you for sponsoring the feast. And here is a small gift for you. And Keshvi, how old are you now?
Keshvi, you want to say Haribol? Haribol, Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Keshvi, Hare Krishna.
Haribol, bol, Haribol.
Radha Madan Mohan ji ki. Keshvi. Please. Keshvi, Radha Madan Mohan ji ki. Jai. Say thank you.
So Mataji, would you like to say 2 words?
Thank you so much, devotees. It's been amazing 2 years filled with gratitude for Krishna. She came because of devotees' prayers and blessings. So we hope that we can serve all the devotees. Say Radha Madan Mohan ji ki Jai. Jai. She wants to. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. And our next sponsor is Rakhi. Oh, nice. Someone is donating this to the temple. Okay, so it's, if you find your wallet or missing or some Lakshmi, okay, that's, okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So Vibhu Prabhu, if you are hearing this, please join Prabhu. He is looking for you in the kitchen. Vibhu Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Vibhu Mataji, sorry. Hare Krishna. And the next sponsor is Rakhi Mataji, is sponsoring on the occasion of her son's graduation. Is she here? Okay, you just inquired. But anyway, thank you, for inquiring as well. Here we'll, nevertheless, thank you for your inquiring. We'll give you this gift, okay? Hare Krishna. Snehal Mataji is sponsoring. Okay, she has a very good news. She is sponsoring the occasion of her new job, new car, new apartment, and rest, I will let her tell you, okay? Thank you, Mataji, for sponsoring. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. It's because of the blessings of ISV and all the devotees here that I'm, in constant association with. My life in the past few months has changed completely. Just like what Prabhuji said, it's on the occasion of a new job, new car, passing my driving test, getting a new apartment and everything. So thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, thank you. So do you know what is the first service that she signed up for? She came to the temple as a newcomer. What is the first service that she signed up for? Any guesses? What is the business of ISV? That's, she was inquired about the book distribution and she joined the book distribution team. Hare Krishna. Okay, the next sponsor is an anonymous donor who is sponsoring on the occasion of his friend Renuka Lakshmi Dasari's birthday. And he is requesting prayers for all the blessings to her. So is she there? Renuka Lakshmi Mataji? Okay, so let's thank the anonymous donor for sponsoring the feast. Hare Krishna. So that's it. If anyone else wants to sponsor, we have a couple of gifts left. But nevertheless, thank you all for again joining us tonight for a beautiful Sunday Feast Festival here. And now we'll announce the cooks. Somya is going to announce? Okay, Somya. So again, we have a special feast cooked by the Kaishora kids. Kaishora kids are between the age group between 12 and 14. They cooked, of course, under the guidance of their parents and the cooks. So Somya is going to tell us more details about the cooks.
Hare Krishna. The cooks for today's Sunday feast were Ananda Vrindavan Mataji, Deepali Mataji, Sachendra Prabhu, Venkatesh Prabhu, Madhuri Mataji, Rasheshwari Leela Mataji, Hitesh Prabhuji, Shyama Bhakta Mataji, Shyama Karna Mataji, Chindu Prabhu, Divyananda Prabhu, and the amazing Kaishora kids, Arman, Amara, Viswajit, Vedang, Shreya, Nimai, Nitai, Atyant, Suraj, Pooja, Vedant, Vaishnavi, and myself.
Okay, so that's it for the announcement. So shortly we'll proceed to the Prasadam. But before the Prasadam, we have the Prasadam prayers. So Monisha or Gita Priya, please. Okay, Hare Krishna.